Well, EU citizens in the UK have reacted with huge disappointment to the news of this potential deal. People are exhausted. Many of us feel betrayed, feel angry, as our lives have been hanging in the balance for over 2 years. This is not a good deal for us. It's not a good deal for the British in Europe who risk losing their freedom of movement. And, first of all, we are asked to pay to stay in our own homes, sometimes after 50 or 60 years of having lived here. So the elderly, the stay-at-home mums, the disabled, the carers in particular, are particularly concerned. For instance, a Dutch widow was telling me that she hasn't had a good night's sleep since the referendum.
Ms. Rumiji, the agreement does say that it will protect the rights of EU citizens living in the UK, even beyond the end of the transition period. So they'll get the same, people like yourself will get the same access to healthcare, to pensions, to social security as you have now. Surely that is as good as can be expected.
Well, we are losing certain rights. We risk losing our status, for instance, if we live outside of the UK for more than 5 years. And also we will have to undergo systematic criminality checks. So it's not exactly the same situation we had before.
No, it's not the same situation, but, immigration was at the heart of this Brexit vote. It was obviously seen as, it is a huge issue for many of the voters who voted to leave. Surely you've got to accept that the wish of the British people at this point was to change the rules going forward so that the EU nationals living in the UK will never have things the same as they had before. But still, this is quite a generous settlement for EU nationals.
Well, certainly this is not how we feel. You must not forget that in Britain we live under the hostile environment Theresa May has introduced in 2012, so even before Brexit. But this hostile environment is already amongst us, and we are already struggling to rent, to open bank accounts, to set up mortgages. So this situation is not going to get any better. Settled status is really not the solution to all our problems. Of course, the worst case scenario is a no deal for us, in which case, we've been fighting and, trying to politicians to ring fence our rights, because I think this is the only way forward.
Oh, I'm surprised that, given that the no deal would be so much worse, that you're not satisfied by this deal. Theresa May suggests that the way that immigration will go forward is that immigrants will be let in on the basis of the talents, the skills that they can bring to the UK, rather than, as she says it, EU nationals jumping to the front of the queue. Surely, if the UK is to leave the EU, that makes sense going forward. The EU nationals will be granted the same rights as other immigrants.
Well, we were invited in this country thanks to freedom of movement. We were told that we could stay, that we didn't need any other documents. And now we're told that we need to apply to stay, and many could still fall through the system. So what will happen to those who fall through the system? It's not a generous offer for us. It leaves us, as I was saying, in deep uncertainty. And it's if you heard the stories of EU citizens as well as Brits living in the EU and the uncertainty they live every day, you probably understand better how how uncertainty deeply affects us, and this is why it's important. I mean, we've collected our stories in a book of testimonies called In Limbo, because it's very important to tell this side, the human cost of the Brexit story,